Lucas was an ordinary 8-year-old boy who loved to explore everything he could. When his family moved into an old Victorian house, the first thing he did was go to the basement to see what was hidden there. In the corner, under a dusty blanket, he found an old dollhouse. The house was amazingly detailed. Tiny windows, carved doors, miniature furniture. It looked exactly like their new home. Lucas ran his hand along the dusty roof, then carefully opened the front. Inside, the rooms were arranged like in their own house, only much smaller. On the first floor, there was a kitchen with a tiny table, a sofa in the living room. On the second floor, there were bedrooms, each one a detailed reproduction of their own rooms. Lucas noticed that in one of the bedrooms there was a bed with the same bedspread as his. But the strangest thing was the figurines. Little dolls, each of which resembled members of his family: his mother, father, younger sister, and himself. The dolls stood in different rooms, as if they had a life of their own. Lucas took the house upstairs, put it in his room, and started playing. But the more time he spent with the house, the more he began to feel a strange feeling that it was not just a toy. At first, Lucas didn't pay attention to the dolls changing their positions. He thought he had simply forgotten how he had placed them. The next day, he found his figurine sitting at a tiny table in the miniature living room, although he clearly remembered leaving it in the bedroom. Gradually, he began to notice that the dolls exactly repeated the life of his family. In the morning, his mother's figurine was in the tiny kitchen, just like her, preparing breakfast. His little sister's figurine was sitting in the nursery, playing with toys, and this coincided with what was happening in real life. One night, Lucas woke up and saw that the house was illuminated from the inside with a soft light, although he did not know where it could have come from. He came closer and saw that his father's figurine was standing by the door, as if checking the lock. When he went down to the first floor, his father was indeed standing at the front door. It was funny, but only at first. A few days later, Lucas noticed that one of the figurines was missing. It was his sister's figurine. The house now looked empty without her presence in the nursery. At first, he thought he had simply lost her, but that same evening, something strange happened. His sister did not return home after a walk with friends. Her parents raised the alarm, and a search began. Lucas did not know what to do. He returned to the house, hoping that it was just a coincidence. But his heart froze when he saw that the figurine of his mother, who had been in the kitchen that morning, was now gone. In the middle of the night, he heard a strange sound. When he ran out into the hallway, he found that his mother was nowhere to be found. Her coat was hanging in place, her phone was lying on the kitchen table, but she herself was gone, just like the figurine. Lucas sat in his room, shaking with fear. The house no longer seemed like a toy, but something alive, something sinister. He looked at the remaining dolls, his and his father's. His father was in the study on the second floor, and when Lucas looked there, he heard muffled footsteps on the floor above. He ran to check, but the study was empty. His father was gone. In his place, there was only the warm light of a table lamp and an unfinished book. Lucas returned to his room, feeling how the house had become too big and empty. Now only his figurine remained. It stood in the bedroom, next to a tiny bed with a miniature bedspread exactly like his own. The house was illuminated from within. The light grew stronger, casting ominous shadows on the walls. Lucas picked up the figurine. hoping to somehow fix everything. But his hand froze when the figurine in his hand blinked. The boy screamed and threw her to the floor, but at that moment, something grabbed his legs, pulling him down. Everything went dark before his eyes, and he felt a cold, dense force pulling him in. When he opened his eyes, he was standing in a house. The world around him became huge, as if everything around him had increased tenfold. The small kitchen stove, the tiny sofas, everything was now his new reality. Lucas ran to the window, trying to look outside, but behind it he saw Koro, his own face, enormous, soulless. It looked inward with interest. He realized this is not him. This is his doll reflection, which now lived his life, watching him from a huge world. Other dolls appeared on the shelf nearby, his parents and sister. They did not move, but their eyes saw everything. They were here, locked together with him. The dollhouse now stood on a shelf in someone's room, illuminated by a soft light. The dolls inside moved, played their roles, living the lives of those who once thought they controlled them.